Our next module for discussion is dynamic programming. This is yet another algorithmic paradigm, quite powerful. Many combinatorial problems, many computational problems that we come across has got a nice solution through this paradigm. So far we have discussed algorithmic paradigms such as pruning. Then we looked at divide and conquer, and after divide and conquer we looked at greedy algorithms. If you look at greedy algorithms, they are largely applied to optimization problems. The optimization could be minimization or maximization. So we saw that for coin change, for some denominations, greedy strategy was working fine. Similarly, knapsack problem, if it is fractional knapsack, there exists a greedy strategy. But if it is 0-1 knapsack, no greedy strategy exists. And scheduling, we saw a greedy strategy. Now, there are many optimization problems for which greedy strategy may not give you optimum. So, how do we solve such problems? And one candidate algorithmic paradigm is dynamic programming. So, if you look at greedy algorithms, if it works, or if you look at greedy strategy, first it identifies one local optimum and then it jumps to another local optimum. So the strategy will tell you, you choose an item satisfying this property, choose an object satisfying this property, and so on. And in an attempt to hit the global optimum. Correct? But we saw that for coin change, for some denomination it was working, for arbitrary denomination it was not. So how do we handle such problems? So moving from local optimum to another local optimum, for some case studies with some restriction we can hit the global optimum, but for many this is not the case. But it's an optimization problem. So we should look for some strategy using which one should be able to solve the problem. So that's precisely dynamic programming. If you look at characteristics of greedy algorithm, for that matter characteristics of any greedy algorithm, I'm saying greedy algorithm, so which means the strategy works and there exists a proof of correctness. So I say greedy algorithm, which means greedy strategy plus proof of correctness. If you look at the greedy algorithm, so optimal solution to problem, that's precisely our global opt, that we compute with the help of optimal solutions to subproblems. So optimal solution to a problem lies with optimal solutions to its subproblems. So in some sense, you solve subproblems and make use of that solution, sub-solution or solution to get solution to the actual problem. That's precisely what we were doing. So first we were looking at one local optimum that was giving optimal solution to one subproblem. Then we moved to another subproblem. So like that, when we were moving, finally we were able to hit the global optimum. So this property is called optimal substructure. So optimal solution to a problem is computed or lies with the optimal solutions to its subproblems. Fine. Now, this, if it exists, which means your greedy strategy works fine, and there exists a proof of correctness, it becomes a greedy algorithm. If optimal substructure fails, then answer is no. For example, when we looked at coin change problem, say for the denominations, say 1, 3, 4, and we want to give change for rupee X, say rupees 6. So greedy was saying supply 4 because this is max denomination, and you cannot supply any more, then go to the next available denomination and supply as much as you can. So this is what greedy says. Then what is our opt? Opt says you just supply 2 3 rupee coins. So number of coins in this case it is 2, and number of coins in this case is 3. So clearly greedy is not opt. But what is this telling you? So this says you take, say, the optimal solution to subproblem. Subproblem is you are giving change for say 4. You use 1. Can you extend that solution to rupee 6? No. If you extend, we are not getting optimum. Correct? And so opt is something else. So optimal solution to a problem lies with optimal solutions to its subproblems. So greedy strategy says you first give this, then you are left with 2 rupees, then for that you supply 2 1 rupee coins. That is opt. For 2 rupees you can only supply 2 1 rupee coins, but can I take that solution and extend it to the actual problem where you are asked to supply change for rupee 6? Answer is no. So optimal solution to a problem, in this case it does not lie with optimal solution to its subproblem. So there are cases where we may not be able to extend the optimal solution to subproblem to the problem. For example, in this case, change for rupee 2 is, this is opt. But when I extend this to 6, answer is no. That's not opt. So now we shall look at a strategy, namely, or a paradigm, dynamic programming, using which problem like this can be solved. And so which means just doing local optimum alone is not sufficient. We have to do some more work. And so we may have to look at many possibilities before we decide that this is precisely the optimum. So in some sense, we are going to explore all possibilities, but that we will do it in a careful way. Explore all possible solutions to subproblems. So before deciding opt. Right, so but you may think this is looking like brute force. Now question, is this same as brute force? So answer is no. So we are not going to do simple, listing or simple brute force. We are going to do it in a careful way. But it may appear like we are listing all of them, but that is something is done in a careful way by focusing on another property called overlapping subproblems. when we explore subproblems, we see that some subproblems have, or some problems or some subproblems have overlapping substructure. So we are going to exploit this structure as part of dynamic programming. So two things or two characteristics. One is optimal substructure. The second one is overlapping subproblems, which we shall see now through an example before we get into a formal framework. Let's revisit coin change problem. Suppose the denominations are say 1, 3, 4, and we wish to give change for say rupee 6. Suppose I am going to do something like listing all possibilities or brute force approach. So let me start with x is equal to 6. You can look at it this way. You are giving one 1 rupee coin, then you are left with 5. So something like you can give one 1 rupee and then give change for 5, or give one 3 rupee and then give change for the remaining, or one 4 rupee and give change for remaining, which is 2. Because we are exploring all possibilities, right? This is one way of looking at this brute force. Then again you can give change using one 1 rupee, so it becomes 4, or you can give one 3 rupee, it becomes 2, or one 4 rupee, it becomes 1. Correct? So over here you can give change using 1 rupee, so you are left with 2 rupees, or you can give change using 3 rupees, you are left with 0. You cannot give change using 4 rupee, so that branch will not be there. This one, give change using 1 rupee, so you are left with 1. You cannot give change using 3 or 4, so that branch is not there. So subsequently, this one you give change using 1, left with 3, or you can give 1 3 rupee and you are left with 1, or you can use 1 4 rupee, you are left with 0. This one you give change using 1 rupee, left with 1. No further, you cannot give change using 3 or 4. This branch, no further progress, because you can give change for this using only one this, so you stop. And this one 1 rupee, you give 1. Other branch is not possible. This one you give change using 1 rupee, so you get 0. And subsequently this give change using this, so it's 0. So subsequently give change using this, so it is 0. And this one give 1 rupee, 0. And this one you give change using 1 rupee, left with 2 rupees, or 1 3 rupee, left with 0. Subsequently 1 rupee 1, 1 rupee 0. So if you look at this, now all possible ways of giving change for rupee 6 is presented in a nice form. For example, you can give change for this. So this is 1, 3, 4. You can give 2 3 rupees. These two are 0. Or you can give 6 1 rupee. These two are 0. Or you can give 1 3 rupee and this one is 0. You can give 2 1 rupee, this one is 0, 1 4 rupee. So like that there are many possibilities, right? But all of them are listed here. That's the beauty. For example, 0 to 0, right? It says you give change to 3 rupee. So this branch, starting from this one root, this branch will tell you 3, 3, so which means it is here. This says 6 ones. That's precisely this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This branch tells you that give change like this. Now look at this one. This one says 3 1 rupee and followed by, so 3 1 rupee coins followed by 1 3. So for example, take this and then you get to see this 1 3 rupee coin followed by 3 ones. Fine. So look at this. This says 2 1 rupee coin, 1 4 rupee coin. So we are giving 1 4 rupee and 2 of them is here. Correct? So there are multiple things. This one, 3 1 rupee coin, 1 this one, you can also see this branch, right? It's 1, 2, 3 followed by this branch. Fine. So this is listing all possibilities. This is listing all this tree is listing all possibilities because there are 3 denominations, so it's a ternary tree. Now when you hit the leaf, you get to see the combination. For example, when I'm here, the combination tells you that there are 2 1 rupee coins, there is no 3 and 1 4 rupee coin. Suppose you are at this place. If you are at this place, it says 1, 2 and 3. So we use 3 1 rupee coins and 1 3 rupee coin and 0 number of 4 rupee coin. At the leaf node, you can precisely get the combination. Now for each of them we can count. So this says 4 coins, this says 3 coins. So like that we can count, and this branch will tell you that it is 0, 2 and then 0, which means number of coins is 2, and with all these possibilities one can see that this is precisely oct. Correct? Now yes, this works. This works. It simply explores all possibilities. So this is a clear brute force algorithm. Then where are we using the optimization properties, characteristics such as optimal substructure and so on? But if you look at this structure carefully, for example, this one, right? You have to give change for rupee 3, then you explore possibilities. So this one and this one, if you see, it is one and the same. Similarly, you are given 1 4 rupee, you are left with 2, and this branch and this branch, it's one and the same. So what is this telling us? This computational subproblem and this computational subproblem, they are one and the same. It is same subproblem is computed here and computed here. So this we call it as overlapping subproblems. Now can we compute these subproblems exactly one, so that we can save time. Similarly, this recursive subproblem and the solution, it is appearing here as well. So, which means I am computing with respect to this, Again, computing with respect to this. So if you look at this problem, coin change, it has got overlapping subproblem property. Here is a subproblem, same subproblem is overlapping over here also. Here is a subproblem and it is used here also. Or something like same subproblem is being computed more than once. So now the question is, can we compute the overlapping subproblems exactly once? If we do that, then we see an improvement over simple brute force. So this is what I was telling you initially. We do careful brute force by exploiting this property. So that is precisely the focus of dynamic programming.